Hey,
Good morning, Christy. How you doing?
doing well. How about you?
Good. A little sleepy, but hanging in there. How's your week been?
So it's busy, super busy. Yeah, just today had a call actually with some guys from one African government about tokenizing real world assets. Like minerals, they
Sure.
producing with the main idea to find also funding model for local small and medium-sized cooperatives, entities doing mining, right? So, well, it's a huge problem, it seems. Let's see how it goes. But having a lot of talks these days about possibility to build this and that. A lot of folks currently in Dubai at token 2049, but yeah, I have enough connections, so that there is no need to waste time on those big events. So, be busy with talking a lot, despite skipping those events. Maybe we'll provide more details, but you need to finalize some talks also started talk in developers community. We had quite good developers chat yesterday. So the talk is about what to do after subblocks, right? So what do we have currently, right? So we have five. Not 5026, which is under review, and it will be released first, I believe, it will help with user experience a little bit by supporting block candidate regeneration. Finally, 6.0 is finalized. It's quite huge update, so it's about 17,000 lines of code. It's under review, right, for some time, and it is still under review, right? So that there were some issues found, fixed. So now it's hopefully finalized, but still there is some audit going on. We can start reaching pool mining pools anyways, and fix voting height, right, to start voting. And then in case of successful voting, in case of super majority, 90% actually support, we will have activation in 3 months, right? And then for subblocks, so I've done recently peer-to-peer layer, so new peer-to-peer layer messages, and proper validation of subblocks, right? Because certain transactions cannot be included in subblocks, for example emission, right, transaction, and other transactions which depend on block timestamp and miner's public key, right? Because they are changing from one subblock to another. So then if you are for soft fork, right, then such transactions cannot be included into a subblock, because old clients would receive just full blocks as they are doing now, right? And well, the transaction could become invalid, right? Well, for old clients, but being valid for new clients. Otherwise, I mean, if we allow for inclusion of such transactions. So, well, this is fixed now, right? So there is proper validation of subblock transactions, and well. Like 99.9 transactions can be included and will be included in subblocks. Right, so well, now I'm I believe well, block candidate generation also done. So what's needed now is to rework peer-to-peer layer a little bit. To send full blocks to old clients, right, on generating a block, not a subblock, right? And well, to send only well, basically difference to new clients, right, supporting subblocks, so to avoid setting well, full blocks when they are mined. So
how old can you go there, Kushti? How old can a client be?
So all the clients before sublocks would be supported, right? So
Everything.
well, yeah.
Wow.
So after sublocks deployments, yeah, even 4.100 would be supported. So yeah,
Wow,
we are
that's
quite
impressive.
we are quite extreme here, right? About support. So well, in next version 7.0, right, if it will be released, there will be probably some breaking changes for clients before 5.0.23 or 24, so it's documented in the release notes. But this is about the next update, right? So 7.0, so it will be I don't know, in 1 or 2 years if it would be needed at all in the first place, because well. Currently, so well, what was the point of the developers chat in particular? I started with that is to well, discuss what would be in focus in regards with co-development after subblocks, right? But yeah, well, if there is no any concrete needs, then maybe in the first place, and it seems well, for developers, ecosystem developers, it's the same based on feedback. So it seems the main thing needed is well, improving well, developing experience, right, and targeting well, real world needs, I believe, right, because well, it's the time we are living in when it's not toy in a sandbox, right, anymore. So well, it should be time right now for well, beginning of transformation of financial tooling, well, on scale, right? And going to publish. Hey, MG
We
Pi.
got MG Pi joining us. He'll be patched
Hello?
in 1 minute. There he is. Welcome, MG Pi.
Hey guys,
Good to see us, sir.
nice
Yes.
to be here.
So yeah, so it's the moment when we have well, cryptocurrencies going into corporate and national reserves, right? At the same time, tokenization of real-world assets. Well, I see a new wave of demands for privacy, right, and so on. And there is even particular interest in proof of work again, I believe, right? In certain circles. It's a little bit strange because it's not about retail even often, right? So it's the strange time where most of retail is simply retarded, right? And well. Interesting proof of work, for example, is coming from corporate entities. Right, it's quite of reverse what we had a few years ago, but dependless of environment, our principles still the same, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so and talking about real world adoption. So, what's on your side? What's new with the brick experiment?
Also, it's really funny to watch. People are, as they recognize the way these kids work, is they always put. I don't want to say they put everything off to the last minute, but they prioritize, right? And their priority is usually their work. So if they don't have time to read instructions or do anything, that's usually the last minute. But the incentive's been there long enough now for students to recognize that their peers are getting free things from handing in recycled plots. So we've saved about if you do the equivalence. We've had a ton of recycling and we've saved students about $1,000 so far with utilizing Ergo and the brick token. So the way it works is students will bring in their plots after they're done with them, stuff them in a basket, and we say, okay, that's worth 40 brick or 50 brick or 60 brick. And we tip it to them with Louis' tipper bot. And then the way my system works, I've explained it before, when you send through the interface to plot, it triggers a pop-up in Discord channel that they just copy the code to tip. They tip it. The Offchain bot reads the wallet and then marks the plot to be plotted, kind of thing. So it's a really simple setup using the tipper bot and Ergo, and it's working fantastically well. I don't think I've had to bounce anything in the last 4 or 5 months that I've been running it. So it's been fantastic, except when Louis' spot went down once. So students now, some of the students are trying to circumvent the rules a little bit. Initially, I was like, okay, one plot you bring back, it's 40 brick. But, these plots vary from 32 inches long to, 160 inches wide. So what some of these kids are doing is they're slicing the plots into short pieces and rolling them up and taping them to bring them to recycle. So it looks like they have 10 plots, but in reality, it's like 3 or 4. So I've switched to the method of just saying, yeah, the mass of that paper looks like X amount of plots. So here's X amount of bricks. So it's really funny how they're trying to squeeze as much as they can out of this kind of stuff. So the next step, as this gets more and more popular, is I'm going to approach the departments themselves, the architecture department, and say, hey, to show the students that you're serious about recycling and reusing, why don't you sponsor some brick and give us an injection of $5,000 or $10,000 worth of brick, and then we will inject that into the students, and they will have free plotting from the architecture department to encourage recycling. Or it's a bonus thing. You bring your plot back this week, and then the architecture department tacks on double the amount of brick that you get for your plots that you're bringing back this week. So not only we're giving the word that the architecture department is serious about students recycling and reusing, but they're also injecting funds in to help out with this kind of thing. So it's really fun. It's looking good. And the students, we've got about 60, 70, I believe, students that have set up wallets and have been currently doing those transactions. So that's about, what do we have? About 350 architecture students. So as I said, it's a slow burn, but it rolls and then it catches up and it explodes. So it's cool. And especially next semester when we get more funds in there, it'll be really fun. But it's so cool to watch. I'm asking kids, like, some kids just show up with, like, I know they haven't recycled as much, and they're plotting like bam, 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 and I'm like, they must be trading in the back. I didn't look, but they must be trading in the background something. So I need to study the chain to see how that's happening and how some people are ending up with more brick than the other people, because they're not getting it from me, that's for sure. So yeah.
So maybe they're using brick as a kind of currency when
yeah, exactly.
that is not. But that's when the real fun starts, right? When people are starting to use it to trade. And I think that's natural, especially when you are dealing with students, right? So, well, you then may naturally expect attempts to cheat, right? And also, well,
yeah, 100%.
and also a lot
bend
of
the rules. Test the cage, test the wires if they're going to zap them or not.
Yeah, but also a lot of unplanned activities, right? Including exciting ones.
Yeah. And it's nice to also use so we hire about 20 student workers here to run the center over there. And brick is really like, typically at Cornell you can't be like, hey, good job, here's $50 extra for your student work. That never happens. But with brick we can say, hey, that was awesome, thanks for doing that, here's 50 bricks towards your plotting. So it's this bonus incentive structure that not only we give to students, but we can give to our student workers as like a bonus for work well done or extra things that they've done or that kind of stuff. So that's a really good tool to have in the tool chest when you're doing that.
All right, and it would be interesting to get information, right, on trading. I mean, if it happens, but probably it does, right? If you see some secondary transactions, so not originating from you, then it means that there is some economic activity, right? Exchange. In this break, and in regards with all those things, currently, I had a talk with HQ just yesterday. So he was hit by this incident in Spain, blackout, right? When there was no electricity. So the idea he has is to do something with mesh networks, at least some catalog of services, right, which you can access when you don't have electricity for some time. Then it's also possible. What I'm thinking about now is some sort of off-chain currencies, right? And we also discussed that. Backed by on-chain reserves, right? So it's like chain cash, but with nodes being created and transferred over off-chain networks, right? Such as mesh networks, or just I don't know, maybe the trusted server matrix. So, then you have reserves, right, on blockchain, and the same reserve could be reused in multiple networks, right? So it's kind of like BitTorrent, but for payments, right? So you have some global layer with reserves, which is Ergo blockchain, right? And then, very different currency systems of chain on top of it, such as community currencies, those mesh networks, temporary or not so payment solutions, maybe some social media means of payments, right? So, I'm also thinking about such possibilities. So it's basically like tipper bot, right? We have in Telegram, but you can tip for content and not necessarily with money which do exist, right? So you can first, I don't know, give a star, right, to some content over the internet, and then pay when enough debt to authors collected, right? Once a month, maybe even, and then yeah, well, it's could solve issue payment to some degree,
Krishti, what about
and so on. Yeah.
what's the possibility of you're talking about chain cache and mesh networks with low bandwidth? What's the possibility? I know it's risky, right? What's the possibility of integrating into a wallet some sort of offline exchange so that if I come to you and we meet up in someplace without any kind of internet wireless signal, but you transfer me from wallet to wallet and you sign a transaction essentially to my wallet. I guess you could spend it beforehand, right? From another wallet. The thought is, if you can pre-sign something and transfer it to my wallet, then when I get internet, I can send it out. But with UUTXO, I guess you could spend it from another wallet before that transaction hits the pool. I guess there's no way to do that, right? Without protecting the asset offline.
So if there is some trust, right?
It had to be trust. Yeah, right.
Yeah, you can do some on ramp. So, for example, you can get state of on-chain reserve without even having network, or without having it right at the moment of a deal. Right, by just checking PoW proof corresponding to the latest time of synchronization with the network. And then, yeah, well, you can see reserve rights of a seller, and during exchange you are getting assigned nodes, and then, yeah, you can present this node to a smart contract when going online, right? But then, yeah, well, if the seller is going, so if you're buying on-chain assets this way, right, so then the seller may appear before you on the chain and redeem, right, so the reserve. So yeah, but then yeah, well, you may have some trust.
That's when you bring out the wrench remedy on the seller.
Right. So, well, if there is some even low bandwidth access, right, then you can submit.
Right. It doesn't take much. Yeah. True.
Transaction. So, yeah, there are a lot of possibilities here. I mean, even if there is some super limited access to mobile network, like SMS access, right? Then yeah, it's possible to do a service which is not relying on trust to the seller, right? So you may have a trust infrastructure provider, right, which is, well, providing SMS service basically, but no more than that. Something like that.
It'd be neat to have devices like really real Ergo gold bricks where you put stablecoin onto a ledger device that never reveals its seed phrase to anybody, right? So there's no way to extract a seed phrase. So when you deliver these physical devices, they know that there's no extraction that could have been done to it, and it can be redeemed without somebody coming in behind you to the internet first. I guess that'd be a little risky, right? Though, if it broke or anything like that.
Yeah. And it's also quite experimental. It's called in cryptography PUT, so physically unclonable.
Yeah.
So somewhat. But yeah, so the device which can be cloned. But yeah, I actually don't know the current state of this field. Need to check even.
Cool.
All right.
Well, MG Pi, how's your neck of the woods?
Hey guys, I just been really busy on the Cardano side of things, building over there for
I'm
for
sorry, you're cutting
Zengate.
out. We can't hear you at all.
Here,
I'm,
is
I'm
this
just
better?
kidding, MGPie.
Oh,
He said Cardano, so I said you were cutting out.
yeah, it's been very busy. You know, I implemented staking for Zengate, and I mean it's not just staking. It's very dynamic, right? Because the rewards need to adjust due to like real world factors. So there's like several contracts working in conjunction with each other to determine how much rewards and how they get changed weekly. So you know, I've been working on that for a while. So it's done. It's deployed to Cardano, um, and yeah, it's going quite well. And a lot of I think the contract hit like 1,300 transactions, and there's like 600 million Palm tokens, which are like our Palm economies tokens, right? It's locked, so I think that's worth like almost close to $1 million. I don't know what the math is, but you know it's going quite well, and I think it really showed me the doing the development on like how it things are on state of Cardano, and I frankly think it's not that good compared to Ergo. The development just too overcomplicated. Like it's UTXO already, right? So that of course adds some layer of complexity that most of Ergo developers are familiar with. But then Cardano just goes the extra mile to make it more difficult for you. So like the tooling's not really there. Like I constantly need to like go into libraries. Like you know, like libraries are like basically you borrow code from other developers, right? Because you don't want to reinvent the wheel. So on Cardano, like so the assumption is right, whatever you borrow works when you use a library when you're coding. So on Cardano, you got to throw that assumption out of the window. And I constantly find issues in libraries, and I have to go in them, and I have to understand the library and fix them. And whereas Ergo, you know, being like what, like almost 100 times smaller, or maybe like 10, 20 times smaller than Cardano, Ergo has much better libraries, right? Like I don't have to do that too often. Like I might need to look into a library due to a lack of documentation, but I mean, but there's no like really big issue with the library. And if there is an issue, it's quite easy to get a hang of uh, get the contact of the contributors, right, on the developer Discord, because you know everyone's just so like close together, right? Easy to reach, and you know they'll fix it. Like I think Anon BR, or yeah, he wrote the fleet library for Ergo. It's really well done. He's an amazing, talented developer. Right? He's basically a solo developer who worked on Fleet entirely, and then Morphic who worked on AppKit. They're really robust libraries, and it's quite impressive what Ergo has managed to do while being a fraction of the size of Cardano. It's honestly quite ridiculous. Cardano being a multi-billion-dollar blockchain, and then tooling just you know being all over the place. Like everyone has their own thing. Like there's no unified Cardano entity which
Right.
manages the tooling.
There's no like large library bank from the Cardano Foundation, or
Right.
IOHK or anything like that that you
Right.
have full access to, kind of thing like that, or
Yeah, nothing like quite robust. I think now Cardano, I'm not too sure, but Cardano has like a serialization library that's written in Rust and C and or C. I don't remember. I mean, you don't use this because this is like really low level tooling, so it's kind of like Sigma Rust on Ergo, or how Sigma Rust should be on Ergo, in the sense that it's a library that other libraries use, you know, rather than developers using it directly because it's really low level primitives. Um, but yeah, you know, it's quite bad, but you know, hopefully they fix it. But I think the biggest thing for anyway for Ergo and Cardano both is to improve this developer experience. Because I also had to do stuff for EVM on Binance Smart Chain. I implemented the same staking stuff, and it took me a fraction of the. It literally took me like six times less time and work doing Binance because I mean, of course, its account model makes things easier, but the tooling's just all there. It just everything works, everything's fast. Um,
Um,
you know,
Yeah, but CVM is disaster, right? So it's hacked
yes,
every
yes.
day, and it's shit. And yeah, I mean it's because of its broken model, right? So I mean definitely
I mean,
we should stay away from that because I mean it's complete nonsense.
yeah,
Even those guys thinking understanding that it's broken, right? Even Vitalik is now proposing some new nonsense like replacing
Right.
VM with risk, but it's basically the same mistake, right? Because I mean those guys are hopeless in the first place. They don't understand that they're what they are doing in the first place, right? So it started as programmable money, but then those guys started to do decentralized computer for something, but still no one has clear idea. No one can explain why do you need decentralized computer even, right? I mean it's nonsensical idea, also non-scalable by definition, done very badly in EVM with all those hacks, including DAO hack when Vitalik and friends rolled back the chain and so on. So yeah, it's complete disaster, and it's. I mean, talking about billions. So billions are even making things worse, right? For all those chains. I mean, it's not just nonsensical disaster, but also involving big money in the process of those disastrous effects of building replicated programmable calculator for unknown purposes.
Yeah, I think big money, at least in my experience, big money can help with innovation, but it also can stifle it. We were at years ago. I was at a conference at Stanford for the stuff that I do here, and the director of the group, the director of IT there at the time, said, or the CIO, I guess, CO, whatever the hell CI is called for CTO, Chief Technical Officer, said, one of Stanford's biggest problem with innovation is that we have too much money. If there's a problem, we just throw money at it, right? So where's the pain and growth of innovation when you can just say, let's just pay for it, kind of thing. So that does have quite of an effect on that. When you're backed in a corner and you can just pay your way out, that's definitely stifling for any sort of innovation that would have come for that. So yeah. Interesting.
So
While we're talking, oh, sorry, go for it.
Interesting point. That's quite an interesting point. But I think of course, there's good and bad things from anything, right? So we should take the good from EVM in terms of developer experience.
Yeah, but the problem is that there is no good things in EVM. So it's developer experience is about doing broken contracts, which has reentrancy and all that stuff, and then spends months on auditing things, right, properly. I mean, spend also a lot of money because there are just few entities in the world able to do proper audits of this mess, right? So I mean, it's a complete disaster.
But
honestly, I'm looking at this EVM from 2014, right? When we had competing approach. NXT80 in the NXT community, which was rejected and then was implemented in Quora. I mean, it from the status, it was quite clear that it's not good approach. But yeah, I mean, fake simplicity, right, of development, also added issues like this DAO hack, for example, and hundreds of hacks after.
Like, do you feel MGP? I think when I was talking to you before, you were happy with the short amount of time it took you to build contracts over in Binance when you were doing the staking, right? So my question to you is, do you feel as secure about the contracts you've written over on Binance in the amount of time it took compared to if you were able to write those same contracts over here on Ergo? What do you feel more secure about?
I think my security, so I am quite secure about all contracts, of course, but I'm secure about the Binance contracts because it comes from an open source. It comes from PancakeSwap, right, which is the leading DEX on Binance, right? So it's time tested. It's a time tested contract, right? It's been around for like I think 3-4 years now with no issues, and it's open source, right? So I think that also contributes a lot to something, right? You know, if it's been tested, if others have used it, and if it's open source, you know, and people can already attack it, and if there's no attacks done, like you know, there's a pretty good chance of it being secure. I think a really good thing about EVM is about the contracts is that a lot of their things are open source, contracts, and you know. And that's missing in Cardano. Actually, a lot of things are closed source, and it's really weird. I don't like it. Like all their off-chain and all, it's all closed source. On Ergo, at least, Ergo is much better in that sense, where the contracts are open source for the most part. So is off-chain, and all. Generally the UIs are closed source on Ergo, but I don't really find that to be much of an issue.
I mean, with Lovable, you can write a UI in a couple minutes, right? Right. So that's not really, yeah. I think the community pushes for that too. I think it's good to still see, not violently though. Sometimes community gets a little rabid, but it's good that the community still considers the default. Are you going to open source the contracts? Are you going to, you know, at least open source the UI or whatnot kind of thing? Because that boils down to, you know, it is hard to run a business on open source things. So you have to pivot to the point of providing something more than, you know, if you and I are going to run the same thing, MGPie, you would have to provide something better than I could do it. So that would result in your skill of running the business, of the offerings that you do, the connections that you do. So it's a whole different facet of business running when you're trying to compete like that.
But if it's not open source, I mean, who will use it? I mean, in this DeFi space, it's not quite clear. I mean, how can it be called DeFi if it's not open source? I mean, how can you claim that it's DeFi, that it's decentralized?
That doesn't stop Solana or any of those companies or Avalanche or whoever those guys are. Yeah, from claiming that. While we're talking about other chains, guys, can I ask a quick question? Bitcoin trying to squeeze a ton of things into blocks, right? So they can essentially become a cloud storage at this point. What would that look like on Ergo? Didn't we not have a block limit at one point, and it just clogged the shit out of people's nodes, and you had to, you know, crank down the block limit, size limit?
So we have a block size limit, but it can be repurposed by miners, right? So they can lift the limits, and already did that actually. So the current limit is like 2x of initial, and miners can always raise for more. In Ergo, we have storage rent, right, which is providing business from collecting, the garbage data, right, after 4 years. So, here I don't see a big problem. In the Ergo setting, I mean, with storage.
Well, it's much more flexible, right, compared to at least Bitcoin for that kind of...
It's comparing with everything, so to the best of my knowledge, there is no storage rent anywhere, right? So Ethereum community tried to do tried to push for that. Vitalik even, I believe, back in 2015-16, but yeah, well, now it's forgotten. But there is some old EAP about that Ethereum improvement proposal. But yeah, well, to the best of my knowledge, yeah, I mean that's quite natural, I believe. Well, incentive model, right, and well, anti-garbage measurement is done in the Ergo only.
All right, we got 13 minutes. Let's hit some questions.
All right.
Matas says, Kushti doing tremendous work. I thought we'd put that kudos up there. White Cat wants to know, nice to see everybody back. Question for today, what have you guys done for Ergo in the last 7 days? I think we just went on for that for 47 minutes, but White Cat has not sold. So, all right. Let's see. We just commented on the Bitcoin OP controversy, I guess, right? From Luke. I already had that question. Let's see.
Oh.
Anything you guys see you want to answer? Shout it out while I look.
I don't see chat on. Where is that? So on mobile, I don't see it even.
Oh, well, here we go.
Please comment on the Bitcoin up return. But it's old as hell, actually. So when I spent a lot of time around Bitcoin developers back in 2015, beginning of 2015, when I visited different events around San Francisco. And there were a lot of Bitcoin developers around as well. And well, one of the most topics was, yeah, op return. So there were some hot debates about making it 40 bytes or 80 bytes, something like that. But yeah, I mean, it's always possible to encode data, right? It seems, well, in different ways. So, well, instead of preventing that, it's better to provide some simple way, I believe, to write data. And then, yeah, some simple mechanisms for preventing spam attacks. And dust, well, garbage in the UTXO set. So then, yeah, well, I believe Ergo is doing quite well here, right? And well, op return is also quite simple mechanism, right? Then, yeah, well, there is need for some anti-dust measurements, and yeah, it's missed in Bitcoin, and there is a lot of dust in the UTXO set, which is slowing down transaction validation and so on. So, but yeah, well, we have what we have. So, Bitcoin protocol is quite stable now, right? So we cannot expect any big changes. Only some well, some soft forkish, right, like Taproots and before Segwit. But well, there are some talks actually about demo rush in the Bitcoin community as well, right? So well, I see a lot of talks about tail emission or demo rush, but yeah, well, I can't imagine well, a deployment of that. But let's see.
Let's see what else we have. We have, I think it's for MG Pi. Let me find it. From, where'd it go? It is from Ursa Minor. MG Pi, here you go. MG Pi, please comment on Ergo utilization in Palmyra. Could it be done without Ergo? And if it could, why Ergo?
Yeah, I think one place where Ergo shines compared to Cardano is with our transaction fees, right? It's much more affordable to do bulk tokenization on Ergo compared to Cardano, because like the min UTXO for creating a token is like 1.2 ADA. So this means that you basically got to pay like $1.50, depending on the price, just to make like one token, right? And that, of course, is not affordable if you have like something in large quantities you want to tokenize, right? Like for example, like beehives from various farmers. Um, it'll all be a unique asset. So on if you want to do like 1,000, you'll need 1,000 unique mints on Cardano, which gets really expensive. It's not scalable. But compared to Ergo, you can do it for a fraction of the cost, because the min UTXO on Ergo is like worth a fraction of a penny. And even if Ergo does like a 10x or 100x, it's still going to be much cheaper than Cardano. So
MGPie, are you worried? Do you have plans in place for a demurrage? I mean, if these RWAs sit in a box, or are you going to have like requirements where when an RWA is put inside some sort of box and it's going to sit there for a while, you always have to include with some ergs or something like that?
Yeah,
The last thing you want is like something pulled from the chain that's supposed to be tracked forever, right?
Yeah, the idea is that you have a bunch of tokens in a contract, right? Which or if there is a contract, you let the contract be recreated on its own, like without doing anything extra. So we would have that along with an off-chain bot, seeing like if it's close to expiry, it can just recreate that and prevent the need for demurrage being collected at all, right? But adding erg to an asset itself is a form of like deferring the demurrage if you don't do anything about it. But if you do something about it, you don't really need to worry. So you could have some erg as a buffer. Then on top of that, you can have an off-chain that constantly recreates the UTXO, so demurrage doesn't need to be collected.
Cool. Let's see what else we have here.
Yeah, so a question to MGPie, but yeah, so what is the state of your platform of tokenization? So yesterday, was on a call with some African governments, as I told in the beginning. So they're interested in having some platform for real world tests tokenization, right? And then with Ergo to build some financial tooling around for funding small and medium scale miners. So what's the current status of tokenization platform? What's doable there? Is it open sourced and available to test?
Yeah, so we have the Winter protocol as like a original prototype, but personally, I don't have any involvement at it at the moment. But I have Luca, LDG, who's been on Ergo the last like month or two, working on updating the Winter contracts to beyond MVP. And he's working on implementation of that, and I'll probably be on it in the next month or two while I wrap up some Cardano things.
And you wrap up Sigmalauts front end bots.
Yeah.
Don't forget about that, MGPie. All right, we've got the quick reminder to everybody that ENH wrote, and he's very correct. And maybe MGPie can speak to this since he is a EF member, right, MGPie? He said they were talking about marketing, and ENH says, to me, it seems like EF wants marketing to come from users and the ecosystems. Not bad necessarily, but most users, myself included, just want the number to go up and don't want to have to work for it. I mean, that is what it is. Some people join the ecosystem, and you'll see, I mean, look at a lot of us up here up front of the camera, people in the Sigmanauts, they join the ecosystem and they recognize that Ergo's, focused on kind of a grassroots movement as far as marketing goes, or that was the original intent of my understanding of the intent of the EF. was that. And we're doing our parts, not being paid, just for the good of what Ergo is and what it represents compared to all the other projects out there. But that being said, the EF has given out grants, guys. So I know that it's work sometimes, but if somebody has an idea that says, hey, we want to do this kind of outreach, like take Mark the Shark, he wrote a proposal that said, look, we want to do outreach via mining. We're going to develop a mining tool that's easy and plug and play kind of thing with a dashboard and these kind of NFTs to get people excited about it. And he got a grant for it, and he's working on it as we speak. So that stuff is possible. Write up a nice proposal, send it to the EF, and if you don't want to do the work, maybe you like to write the proposal and then find other people to do the work. But here at least the people I'm looking at right now all pick up a wrench and start tightening stuff and loosening stuff and playing with stuff with no idea of being rewarded other than the fact that we're creating something unlike anything else. Yeah.
I also don't understand what users mean here. So how are they using? Because I'm here
Users.
currently in Ergo because I'm also a user, right? I mean, otherwise, what's the reason I'm not getting paid by EF or users or any other entity, right? So the interest is to use the Ergo, right? And the reason why I'm using it because for things I'm interested in, simply there is no alternative, right? Still there are a lot of pros of UTXO. I think, from what I'm doing, right, as a user, right, so it's, the guy who is also doing contracts on Ergo and so on. And hope to see that being used in the real world, right? Because I'm a little bit tired, to be honest, to be in the space for like 15 years to the moment, and here on only some nonsense about, I don't know, it's always in the different form, but about the same after all, right? So I mean, so some projects are claiming something, some hype, number go up, number go down, then yeah, I mean it repeats with some new narrative. It's a little bit insane to be honest, right? So to continue to be sane in this space, yeah, I mean you need for some hope to see that been used in the real world. Then from what I feel, right, by developing contracts and now thinking about off-chain systems and so on. Reviewing contracts, right, in peer-to-peer finance and so on. So, I think it's very natural. In this space, there are a lot of strange talks about product market fit, right? I mean, even for blockchains, right, cryptocurrency. So it's hard to say what is a product here, right? I mean, naturally, if there is product, then what's the decentralization here? I mean, in the blockchain. So it's hard to understand all the talks. But I think that Ergo is pretty good and fulfilling all the requirements when you are building tools for grassroots finance, right? For sovereign finance, peer-to-peer economic interactions, and it has perfect lifestyle market fit, right? So if you are caring about building stronger communities and sovereignty of those communities and individual sovereignty, then it's probably the best tool set I'm personally having now, right? So, well, as a user, well, I don't see well any a real alternative even.
No, I agree. I think it's the best tool set that I've experienced. I can't imagine building what I built here in this system for students with Ethereum or even Cardano. It would be impossible. Like I can do an initial airdrop of brick to students and give them 0.1 erg, and they're set for 10, 15 transactions, done each. Like that's done and it's one and done. It's forgotten. Like I know the code out there. I know the tool set. I can't. It wouldn't work anywhere else. So that kind of that's testament to me that as more and more people start recognizing this and building things on their own for their own use cases and recycling code using other people's, it's going to become very apparent that when it comes to real world use cases, Ergo is really above everybody else in that sense. It's 10:02, guys. MG Pie, you're going to turn into a pumpkin. Are you skipping class for this?
No, I have a later class today, so
when's your first final?
It's in a week and a half.
Oh, not bad. Oh, one last question, guys. This is from Ursa Minor. This is a neat question.
All right.
Small amount of data, but they want to know if they can use blocks to store an encrypted password list, immutable storage. Like how secure would you trust encrypting your passwords into a file and dumping it on chain?
I mean, just the encryption algorithm, right? That you got to trust.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Not really the blockchains.
How much? So what? Right. How many bytes is it that you can store in the register? Which register would you put this in?
There is no limit. There is only box limit, right? It takes a limit which is about 4 kilobyte. But you can spread our many UTXOs, right?
Oh, right. That's a good point. You could. So just develop an app that breaks it in half, breaks it in parts. Yeah, that's a great point.
So you can save in chunks and for years after you will pay for storage rent. Then for 4 kilobytes it would be about like 5 ERC even, right? Something like that, 4 or 5 ERC. So few dollars, which is quite reasonable, I believe, amount, considering that you're storing your 4 kilobytes of data on hundreds of machines, right?
That'd be interesting. To set up a password vault system on the blockchain, right, where everything's put there and you just trust. That's right. I mean, but what's the risk, right? You have LastPass just had a huge nuke thing a year or two ago, right? I think they had a big scare. Where the keys were in charge of one person, essentially. Whereas, something like this, each person would have access to their own keys only.
I mean, LastPass probably had some bullshit about like recovering if you forgot your password or something like that, right? That's probably how.
Right, exactly. Yeah, safety net. Yep. Oh. So there's a master key. But yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah, that would make me nervous, MG Pie, because you're really trusting whatever encryption algorithm.
I mean, I would trust them, right? Because it's been time tested, right? Like no one's.
I know.
Break RSA encryption, but it's like you kind of lose a layer of protection, right? Because if you have something, like encrypted in your own machine, like someone has to get to your own machine to get that encrypted.
Correct. Yeah. You're taking that gate away from them.
Yeah, you exactly. You take that layer of protection away by directly putting it on the blockchain. But after that data is taken, then it's just figuring out the password or brute forcing it, right? So that in that sense, those layers are the same. Just attacking something that's already.
Ursa wrote again, and he's saying, "How would anyone know its passwords?" And he's right. I mean, you can protection through obscurity, right? Kind of thing. But I guess if it got to follow certain patterns, and UTXOs were created around a certain amount of times. Like if it always spanned 3 UTXOs and it always was made at the same time and it was always made by certain wallets, you could probably do some lookups and figure
Yeah, I mean,
it out.
if you break it into like chunks, though, I'm sure like no, like how would someone even know that there's encrypted data on chain?
Send it
right?
through the
So,
send it through the mixer.
yeah, I
that
mean,
won't work.
yeah,
That won't work.
if the data is like in multiple like chunks UTXO, it's kind of like
Yeah.
it's kind of like messed up. So
Yeah, but you also can store data in UTXO protected with stealth address, right? So then recipient is not known.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's known only that it's a stealth
You could
address is used.
you could store usernames and passwords in separate UTXOs as well, right? And somehow find a way to link them just known to the user based on some sort of hash or something that they would do. So if somebody got a hold of the usernames, that wouldn't matter. If somebody got a hold of the passwords alone, that wouldn't matter. But only the user knows how to bring them back together.
Password on chain.
And the next step those off-chain systems I'm thinking about, like off-chain cache would be adding some privacy, right? So when you may have private transfer before on-chain redemption, then it would be quite cool, right? So then you have some private off-chain cache with transparent on-chain reserves, right, and redemption against them. But yeah, that's quite different topic.
All right, boys, let's wrap it up.
So what we are doing next week, AMA spaces, what?
AMAs are easier, that's for sure.
Yeah, by the way, I will do spaces next Wednesday with some media, so some industry media. So I will share an announcement in coming days.
Is it in English, Kushti?
Yeah. So yeah, it's quite known industry media. So
Awesome.
There will
Fantastic.
be a Twitter Spaces event on Wednesday. So yeah, then next Thursday, let's have AMA maybe.
Yep,
all right,
sounds good. Send us a link so we can push it.
And maybe we can have some occasional community chat on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, because still there are some topics to discuss, especially in regards what to do after subblocks, right, and how to get to the adoption.
Alrighty. Well, thanks for joining us at AMG Pi, Kushti. It's been fun.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you a lot. It was
Bye
quite
guys.
fun. Thank you everyone. Thank you for your questions. Bye.